pursued their own national interest and exploited our complacency. Now our illusions lie shattered. Russia has called our bluff and exposed the emptiness of America's leadership class. Here, I think, is the bitter reality. 30 years after America won the Cold War, the post-Cold War is now over, and I think we've lost it. So how did we get here? And what do we need to do now to change? Well, we'll be talking, let's talk about this now with our panel, Foundation for Defense of Democracies founder and President Clifford May, and Newsweek opinion editor and host of The Josh Hammer Show, Josh Hammer. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us.
Thanks so much, Cliff.
Cliff, let me start with you. In a nutshell, how do you view this moment? We've seen war in Europe, all-out war in Europe, essentially for the first time, in more than 70 years. We have a crisis without any question in the international order. How significant do you think this moment is?
It's usually significant. As you said, and I think I agree with everything you just said in your monologue, Putin sees himself as the Tsar, and he wants to restore the Russian Empire, which was briefly rebranded as the Soviet Empire. And he sees the U.S. and the West very much in retreat, capitulating in Hong Kong when the people of Hong Kong had their rights stripped from them, capitulating to the Taliban in Afghanistan. He figures we're going to capitulate here as well. We should be. There's no question about it that he is trying to make Russia a great power again. If we won't fight him, and again, I'm not saying on the ground, I'm not saying with troops, but if we won't fight him here, then what would we fight the Cold War for? And in fact, what did we fight World War II for? It was to stop one dictator, one empire from taking over Europe, and another one taking over Asia in World War II as well. Maybe if anybody wants to say we shouldn't stand up to Putin now, then they're probably saying, by implication, World War II and the Cold War were for nothing, were a waste.
Josh, your view, I think, is slightly different. Maybe so we all agree that this is an act of aggression, I think, by Russia, which should be resisted. But you maybe think that America has larger priorities. What do you think?
Sure. So, look, first of all, I find so much to agree with, Gerry, in what you said in your monologue, and certainly what Cliff has said here. This is obviously a highly, highly, highly relevant event. There's no point whatsoever in trying to downplay that in order to mitigate it or downsize it. I mean, but we see a trend here. I mean, think back to 2014, okay? In February, March of 2014, Putin marched into the Crimean Peninsula. It was only 5 or 6 months after Barack Obama's kind of infamous chemical weapons red line fiasco vis-a-vis Bashar al-Assad in Syria. It is not a coincidence. It is not a coincidence, Gerry, that under the Obama administration, under the Biden administration, time and time again, Putin's a shark who smells blood, and when he senses weakness, he goes in. I mean, the bitter irony, of course, that the former administration, the Trump administration, which for years and years, literally before he even got in, of course, with Michael Flynn and Crossfire Hurricane and all of the Russiagate stuff, they were trying to derail him as being a putative Russian stooge. He actually was quite hawkish on Russia, and it is no coincidence, of course, that Putin did not go in to Ukraine during the Trump presidency. So as we see time and time again, we've seen this play out over and over again. Deterrence is the way to kind of keep would-be hegemons and would-be kind of imperial dictators at bay here. But to your broader question, and this is where I expect there to be kind of a little disagreement here, I think it is important to emphasize the fact that Ukraine, I mean, obviously going back to the 1990s, the U.S. basically told Ukraine, get rid of your nukes, we'll protect you. I understand that that is like a very serious obligation that we should not just simply ignore. But at the same time, Ukraine is not a NATO ally, okay? Ukraine is not necessarily Poland. It is not the Baltic states. It is different, I think, in kind, not necessarily different in degree from that perspective here. I, for one, having spent time on the ground in both Warsaw and Budapest over the past year, I will be quite more concerned if the Russian tanks start rolling up onto the actual NATO border. I think that is kind of a different type of event. But certainly what's happening there in Ukraine right now, this footage is horrific.
Of course it's different, but you do not understand that just as Putin succeeded in Georgia and there were no penalties when he took 2 provinces away, when he succeeded in Ukraine in 2014, he took Crimea and started a low-intensity conflict in the east. If he succeeds in Ukraine, that will not be the extent of his ambitions. He will not be appeased. His appetite will not be satisfied. It'll be wet, and he will turn where I would think to Estonia, to Latvia, to Lithuania. Why? Right. Because they were parts of the Soviet Union. They are now NATO members, and he will want them back. He will want as much as he can do. There's no way to appease him. So if we do not stand up to him here in the right right way, then we will next have our Article 5 commitments in the Baltics.
Right. We're going to talk next about what actions the US should actually take